Breaking news out of Washington, D.C. Donald Trump has been president for less than a week, and not only has he failed to cut gas and grocery prices for the American people, as promised, he has officially started his first trade war with Colombia, a very important South American trading partner, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, this has all happened in the span of about 3 hours, and the war officially started in the past, 30 minutes. So this is relatively breaking news. We're going to play some clips, read some tweets, read an article. But brace yourselves, Donald Trump's crazy is in full effect.
President Donald Trump says he has issued his first tariff on Colombia after 2 U.S. deportation flights of undocumented migrants were not allowed to land in Colombia. CNN's Steve Contorno is joining us now live from Florida. Steve, tell us more.
Yeah, Fred, just moments ago, Donald Trump reacting to the news that Colombia had blocked planes carrying undocumented migrants from delivering those individuals back to their home country, and Trump now retaliating with tariffs and threats of more tariffs. He said in a post on social media, quote, "I was just informed that the 2 repatriation flights from the United States with a large number of illegal criminals were not allowed to land in Colombia. This order was given by Colombia's socialist president, Gustavo Petro, who is already very unpopular amongst his people. Petro's denial of these flights has jeopardized the national security and public safety of the United States." So he has then goes on to say that he is taking some action against the Colombian government, including a 25% tariff on goods coming from Colombia immediately, and he's threatening to raise that to up to 50% next week. He also is calling for a travel ban and immediate visa revocations on the Colombian government officials and sanctions on party members and family members that support the Colombian government. So, Fred, this is an early example of how Donald Trump's immigration crackdown is already colliding with his foreign policy and trade proposals, and the first of maybe more to come, Fred.
And then, Steve, how immediate are we talking?
Well, he says in the post that these the 25% tariffs are, quote, an emergency and will go into place immediately. And then in 1 week, the 25% tariff will be raised to 50%, which would be quite a steep climb. Of course, Trump has already proposed sweeping tariffs on many of the U.S.'s trade partners, including a 25% trade tariff on Mexico and Canada that he says might go into effect next month. He is also promising a trade tariff on goods coming from China in recent weeks if they don't negotiate a new deal with the United States. So clearly this has been top of mind for Donald Trump for more than a year. He has said he will use tariffs to get the international players to act in the best interest of the United States and to raise revenue for the country. And we are starting to see him use them as a sort of stick to try to get countries to do the U.S.'s bidding. Fred?
Okay, Steve Contorno, thank you so much. We'll check back with you. So all of these policies are already deterring some migrant groups from continuing their journey to the U.S. as well. CNN correspondent Rafael Romo is joining me now with details on that. Before we get to that, Rafael, I know you've been in contact with a number of people in Colombia, not necessarily in the last few minutes that this just happened, but in general, the kinds of imports that would come from Colombia to the U.S. involves food. Yeah, and the tariffs then being imposed near immediately, according to, Trump's directive here, would mean any kinds of products would cost more to Americans.
That's
from
right.
Colombia.
There's a very long commercial relationship between the two countries. And as far as I can remember, in the last few decades, the relationship has been very good. We're talking about a lot of agricultural products, bananas, a lot of tropical fruits that we consume in the United States that come from Colombia. And so if you start seeing the beginning of a trade war between the two countries, is going to affect not only Colombia as a producer, but also a lot of consumers here in the United States. Now, when you look at this whole...
So, this was bad enough when Trump made the threat. Because when this was reported, Trump had just made the threat and started to impose emergency tariffs on Colombia. But the plot thickens because Colombia responded. However, I want to read AOC's response to this. To punish Colombia, Trump is about to make every American pay even more for coffee. Remember, we pay the tariffs, not Colombia. Trump is all about making inflation worse for working class Americans, not better. He's lining the pockets of himself and the billionaire class. And again, we'll get to Colombia's response. But initially, MAGA and right-wing media were taking a victory lap over this. The New York Post, a right-wing column, Colombia's President Gustavo Petro buckles under Trump's trade war threat, offers presidential plane for deportation flights. MAGA reacts to migrants returning to Colombia after Trump ordered tariffs. And again, this idea that, Trump was sending migrants back to Colombia, a very important trade partner in South America, and the president of Colombia, his issue with Trump was that Trump was using military planes, which President Petro thought was dehumanizing. He's like, we need to talk about this. He rejected planes sent from America back to Colombia. He's like, you can't send these people on military planes. And then it was reported after Trump issued the tariff threats that Gustavo Petro was going to offer his own presidential plane, presumably more luxurious and more humanizing, I imagine he would say. So again, MAGA was taking a victory lap. See, Trump issues a tariff threat, and then Colombia buckles. That's how Donald Trump does it. But that's not where it ended. So Gustavo Petro issued a very lengthy tweet. And as friend of the show, Micah Irfan points out, again, the translation, I am informed that you impose a 50% tariff on the fruits of our human labor to enter the United States, and I do the same. Let our people plant corn that was discovered in Colombia and feed the world. As Micah Irfan points out, President of Colombia has seemingly just announced a 50% retaliatory tariffs on all American goods. Dan Pfeiffer, co-host of Pod Save America, responded as well. In response to the Associated Press, Colombian president orders increase of import tariffs on U.S. good in retaliation to similar order from Donald Trump. Dan Pfeiffer responds, ooh, a dumb and pointless trade war in less than a week. Great work. And this is the current update. I'm going to refresh just in case. Yep. Trump orders tariffs on Colombia over rejection of U.S. military deportation flights. Donald Trump said Sunday that he was ordering tariffs, visa restrictions, and other retaliatory measures to be taken against Colombia after its government rejected 2 U.S. military flights carrying migrants. And again, we went into that earlier Sunday. Petro said his government would not accept flights carrying migrants deported from the U.S. until the Trump administration creates a protocol that treats them with dignity. Petro made the announcements in 2 X posts, one of which includes a news video of migrants reportedly deported to Brazil walking on a tarmac with restraints on their hands and feet. So, after Trump's announcement, Petro announced in a post on X that he had ordered the foreign trade minister to raise import tariffs from the U.S. by 25%. So, as of this moment, we are officially in a trade war started by Donald Trump with Colombia. As a matter of fact, I think the article goes into a bit more detail here. Trump's actions would seem to undercut his goal to reduce his country's trade deficit. Unlike Mexico or China, Colombia is one of the few countries with a trade deficit with the U.S. of around $1.4 billion, according to U.S. trade data. Colombia is the U.S.'s second biggest buyer of corn and corn feed, according to the U.S. Grains Council, helping boost U.S. commodity exports from Farm Belt states like Iowa, Indiana, and Nebraska to more than $733 million last year. The U.S. export boom has been driven by a 2-decade-old free trade agreement between the two countries, which have long been close partners in war on drugs. It's unclear if Trump's tariffs are allowed under the agreement, which contains a dispute mechanism to solve trade fights. Colombia is the U.S.'s 4th largest overseas supplier of crude oil, shipping about 209,000 barrels of oil per day last year, although booming domestic production has reduced the U.S.'s dependence on foreign oil. So again, folks, at the moment, they are a major, major trade partner, and Donald Trump has triggered a trade war with them. Staggering. Absolutely staggering stuff. This is a guy who said that he would end wars, and he didn't. And now he's starting trade wars 1 week into his presidency, while also promising that he would cut gas and grocery prices in 1 day, and he failed to do so because his priorities were elsewhere. Now, listen, I have no idea how this will end. I really don't. It's entirely possible that this lasts, 24 hours and both of them back down. I have no clue. All I know is this is probably not a good idea with respect to diplomacy and, international trade, international commerce. Probably not a good idea. Selena Wang, senior White House correspondent for ABC News, says Colombia will impose reciprocal 50% tariffs on U.S. goods. Colombia's president wrote on X, adding that Trump can try to carry out an economic coup, but Petro will die in his law. Quote, I resisted torture and I resist you. That's where we are. Donald Trump has officially triggered a trade war with a key South America trading partner, effective immediately. If this goes into effect, Americans will literally pay the price at the grocery store and other places. This is where we are. Who knows how long it will last, but this is all because of Donald Trump's ego and his absolute inability to engage diplomatically with key partners. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.